right? And this is the life that I want to live. If I want to be free, I can't be the slave to my own lies. Yeah. And so I had to really work on that and really figure out, like, where am I not free? I have some business freedom, and it wasn't great. It's a lot better now.
Yeah.
But I just really had to figure out, like, who is the version of Taylor that needs to show up to get me what I want and need in my life, right?
Yep.
Who do I want to be?
Hey, everybody, I'm here with my great friend, Taylor Grant, and he's here today to share his journey of being a young entrepreneur, growing businesses, starting businesses, overcoming adversity, and the lessons he's learned along the way. Check it out. Taylor Grant.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show, man.
Good to see you, my friend.
Hey, you didn't bump into the cord like a lot of people do.
Oh, should I have?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we've known each other 20 years, man. We were just chatting offline.
Yeah.
Sharing war stories from the boiler room call center. We both worked at a hack shop call center, raking people over the coals mortgage company.
Mortgage-ish company, yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even,
I don't know.
maybe you could call it that.
Dude, it was a learning lesson, shall we say, for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We asked the right questions that we should have asked, and we're told not to.
Yep.
Shut up, put your head down, do what we tell you.
We both exited because we're like, this is not the right place for us.
But that's where we met. You know, we were just talking to a lot of people that have come on the show. I've known them 10, 20, 30 years, and that's where we got connected.
20 years ago, right?
Yeah, you were heading out right as I was heading in.
Exactly.
Maybe it was something like that, I think.
Yeah.
And then we stay connected, man. But love to hear about your business journey, because you've been in different pockets and like sectors and industries of business, and you know, done some really cool stuff. And like now we're here in our 40s on like diets and
I
talking about
identify
diets
as
and our
37,
kids.
so I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, all right, well, cool. Well, you can do that now.
Do whatever you want.
Do
That's
whatever you
right.
want. But yeah, love to see. Like, what was your starting business, man? Like, were you an entrepreneur growing up as a kid, or like what were some of those early influences?
Dude, I love that you asked that, because this is one of my favorite stories of being a kid. Is when I was in elementary school, I think this was 4th grade, my aunt would ask me, "Hey, what do you want for your birthday?" And I'd be like, "I want that thing from Sam's Club, like a pack of Now and Laters," and it's like 200 Now and Later little packets, right? And so I'd take that, and then I would sell them for 10 cents each at school, and then get enough money to buy more, but keep the difference, right? And so just ever since then, I was just like, what's this? This is pretty cool. This is fun.
No one ever tell you that, though? Did you inherently just knew you could do that?
I just knew, yeah. And so it was just really interesting that I just was like, oh, wow, okay, I can sell these to my friends, make 10 cents each. You know, back then that was a lot per little packet of Now and Laters, and then just perpetuated that.
So you sold literally the individual.
It was like the ones that came in the Sam's Club packages were like 4 of those individual squares wrapped in clear plastic, all the same color.
It's 4 for 10 cents, man. That's a deal.
Yeah,
take it.
That's what I thought, bro. But yeah, you know, and it just made sense to me. Like, okay, cool, I can do this, and then I can buy what I want, and that just kind of opened up so many doors for me. But I think you probably have a similar story, right? When you were younger, that it just allowed me to see, like, oh, wait a second, this is even possible. And I come from a family of 6 kids that was raised by a single mother, right? And so like things were not nice in our house, is a good way to put it. And it was tough to get exactly what we wanted as kids, because there just wasn't a lot of money lying around for extracurricular activities and things like that. So I just was like, oh, okay, this allows me to find an avenue to express myself in an interesting, weird way by doing business, by selling Now and Laters to these other kids. And just hustling, bro.
Where did you go? Were you here in Colorado at that time?
That was in Texas, in Plano, Texas, like right north of Dallas.
Interesting. Now, did the school like that? Did they know about that? Did they?
I don't think they ever knew about it.
Okay. Yeah, they kicked me out. They gave me in-school suspension for
really?
2 or 3 days. Yeah, I was hustling.
Come on.
I did the lawn mowing, snow shoveling, Sam's Club. So I was doing candy bars and all kinds of stuff. And I was just competing lower priced than the school store. So I'd like hang out. I'm aggressive though. So I'd hang out like right next to the school store. I'm like, come over here.
Yeah.
They're like, you're going to get suspended. They suspended me.
Wow. Yeah. Dude, that's a little aggressive.
Same kind of stuff. Yeah.
Dude, I love that.
They shut me down.
I love that. Good for you.
So you go from that to talk about a little bit about what you're kind of doing today,
right?
And how you got there,
right?
Because you've had this journey that's been all over the place. And how do you get from selling Now and Laters to what you're doing today?
Dude, that's a great question. So, funny enough, most people don't know this about me, but I dropped out of college. I had 45 credits to graduate, so I did not have a very long time to graduate, and I was just like, "This is all. I'm done. I can't even handle this anymore." I'm either going to go to school and probably not be here much longer on earth, or I'm going to exit school and try to figure this out. And that was like really where I was at.
Not be here on earth, like what?
Probably not be alive anymore because I was so frustrated. I was depressed, like just going to school. I mean, college, partying, all that kind of was in my life. So I'm sure that had a little bit of an effect on it, right? But I just was like, I'm either going to exit school and figure this out or continue on this path that has been really self-destructive. And so I was working at Best Buy at the time in college. And I was 21-ish at that time, making like $65,000 working at Best Buy.
20 years ago.
Yeah. And like just crushing it and like being able to do whatever I wanted to pretty much financially, as a 21-year-old. And then I learned so much at Best Buy from them teaching me SOP and being able to track numbers and looking at this and then like this category we want to affect. How do we do that?
Yeah.
This is how you do that. And so, man, my brain just was like, it just clicked. And I was like, this is fantastic. How do I do this in the future? And then quickly I realized that retail sucked. And I did not want to be there anymore. Like a couple Thanksgivings that you have to be at work at like 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, for the rush.
For the rush, yeah. Getting everything ready. And then the people that rush in there do not care. Do not care about you. Don't care about anybody else.
They're just stomping out old ladies.
Yeah, dude, like
for the TV.
Right. For the $100 off this TV, right? So, but I got to experience that like firsthand on the sales floor, right? And then I kind of worked myself up to sales manager. And then I just realized I was like, you know what, this is cool. This is fun, but I just don't see myself doing this long term.
Yeah.
And kind of exited and then like bounced around trying to figure out what I was going to do. Lived in Seattle with a friend of mine for 6 months and quickly realized I'm like, man, this place was awesome in the summer, but terrible in the wintertime. So came back to Colorado and I've been here ever since and just like bounced around trying to figure out what I was going to do. I didn't really know. And then somebody's like, hey, why don't you get into mortgages? Did that for a little bit, right? Then I got into real estate. So when the '08 crash happened, you remember that, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that we weren't heavily leveraged because we were just about to. And I'm like, I'm going to wait a little bit, not knowing what was coming, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we saw some craziness. Yeah, I mean, that was when M&E just started kicking off. And that didn't seem to have tons of an effect on what we were doing at the time.
Interesting.
But a lot of people in the real estate were getting killed.
Oh, man, right? So doing mortgages and real estate, it just, I was lucky enough. I got this email, and this has kind of been a pattern in my life, right? God delivers what you need at the right time.
Yep.
Unbeknownst to you sometimes, right? But so this email comes across from this guy that's in Nevada. He's in Las Vegas. And it says, winning with short sales. I'm like, what does that even mean? And so I clicked on it, and I read it, and he goes, hey, in your marketplace, are appraisals coming in short? Are these like 3 or 4 different things happening? And I was like, every single one of those things is happening. This was in December of 2007.
Right, as it was about to.
Before it imploded, but it was starting the downhill trend, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take $300 and go to this conference in Denver. And I went, and I'm like, this is what's happening in the real estate market right now. This is what I foresee happening. So I saw that coming and was about a year ahead of everybody else because most people didn't even, like when it started happening, didn't even know what a short sale was. And so I was just ahead of that curve. So mortgages, real estate, got into contracting with epoxy floors, then sold that company and have been doing this public adjusting since 2014. And when I got into it, man, I made the wrong decision by jumping right into it, like sink or swim type of deal.
With the adjusting?
With the adjusting, where I should have exited real estate in maybe a little bit more of a slower, more calculated path. But I didn't.
Because I felt like you were doing real estate, and then you weren't.
Yeah, dude, exactly. It was just like
where'd Taylor go?
Just done, right? Dude, bad move. But like looking back now, it actually ended up being a really good move because what is happening in the real estate market now, I just was ahead of that curve too. Like, man, this almost like monopoly. I mean, I hate calling it that because that's not exactly what it is, but there's so many things working behind the real estate market against agents, against buyers, sellers, and like, who's controlling this, right? And I just was like, I don't want to be a part of that. I'm going to exit and do something where I feel like I get to be Robin Hood almost now.
Yeah.
And it's a good feeling in such a good way, like fighting the Goliaths in the form of David, these multi-billion-dollar companies that want to screw over the insured's property owners, property managers, and like being able to fight that good fight.
So if nobody knows what public adjusting is, because I mean, even as we were dealing in paint contracting, now paint and roof contracting with insurance claims, I've never heard about a public adjuster until an adjuster from the insurance company like yelled at me one day because we were getting into it. I'm like, dude, how can you not pay for this house? It's trashed. And then I said something about the guy's policy, and he goes, "Are you acting as a public adjuster?" I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I think that's when I found out what it was. So what is that exactly?
Man, the simplest way, and I appreciate you asking that, because I'd say if you asked 1,000 people, hey, do you know what a public insurance adjuster is or a public adjuster? 990 of them be like, what is that? Right? So it's a very small percentage of people that know, but ultimately I am hired by the insured. If it is the insured themselves, if it's a property manager or a commercial real estate broker or somebody that is the representative for the insured, hires me to work on their behalf to fight the insurance company when they're being unfair. That's like the simplest way to do it. So a quick example is we'll take a claim. We'll just say it's at $100,000. Our average increase, okay? I know this is hard to believe and people try to call BS on it, but this actually takes out some of the outliers of 20,000% increases. But our average increase is 963% from what the insurance company initially offers. And people are like, how is that possible? How do you do that? Well, we're experts at the insurance policy. And my license with the state allows me to negotiate on behalf of the insured with the insurance company to adjust the claim to a fair dollar amount that is really fair for both parties, right? I'm never like trying to take advantage of the insurance company. I'm just saying, hey, this is the policy, which is a contract that you agreed to. Why aren't you guys actually upholding your end of the bargain? And then I basically make them uphold their end of the bargain. So
they don't like that.
They do not like that.
Well, and that's one of the things too, like as a homeowner. So use the example, you buy your first home, right? And you're like a realtor, mortgage, you got to figure all this stuff out. And then usually it's the realtor or the lender that says, hey, you got to get homeowner's insurance, right? That's your first experience with it. And you get a couple of referrals, you go find somebody that you like. It's just part of your payment.
Exactly.
But you don't realize when you're making that payment every month and you have that policy that there's a 60, 70, 80 page document that you get at some point that you don't read.
That definitely do not read.
Closing documents. And it tells you, it lines out everything that the company is responsible to do for you as the homeowner. If a loss happens, right? So a hailstorm, a fire, a flood, whatever. And we just don't know.
Right. The other side of that is, as the homeowner, the insured, the policyholder, you are also responsible to do certain things. Okay. It's called duties after loss. As the insured, you have to meet certain requirements also. Then the insurance company has to do their side. Right. And
usually you don't as the insured and the homeowner, because you don't know.
Exactly.
So you don't know what you don't know and what you're not doing.
And actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of our main and major things that we do for the insured that we work on behalf of as public adjusters is make sure they meet their duties after loss. Because it's hard to say, hey, you owe me for this, or you're supposed to do this. And the insurance company's like, yeah, but you're supposed to do these 7 things and you haven't done any of them. Ooh, that's tough. So that's something that we actually work on doing for them.
How did you get into that? So you're trucking along in real estate, right? You're like, hey, I'm getting out of mortgage. All right. Did the short sale thing, getting ready to make the exit. But how'd that all come about for you?
Man, that's a great story too. And so like you and I have known each other for 20 years. And so the guy that introduced me to the guy that got me into public adjusting, I've known for like 40 years. Since we were kids in Texas, right? So for about 30 years.
It's a liar. I caught him.
Somebody's a liar. But so we were kids in Texas, and we just have stayed friends ever since. And so actually his family was just visiting me about 3 weeks ago from Fort Worth. And but he had called me. So I was in DFW airport at the hotel for a conference. It was a marketing conference. And he called me and goes, hey man, this guy's plane broke down. We have to fly commercial back to DFW, and he's got box suites at the Rangers game. Do you want to go with us? And I was like, yeah, I sure do. So I left the conference and just hung out with him for the rest of the time, and introduced me to this guy that seemingly had like an amazing lifestyle. And I was like, man, you have a lot of freedom, right? And so I think a lot of us, like me specifically, I look at somebody, I'm like, man, that guy's got a lot of money and he must do well for himself. But really, as I've kind of gotten wiser, it's, yes, money is great, but dude, freedom's where it's at, right? And so like that's what really is kind of like showing up for me. And so long story short, my buddy Troy introduces me to this guy. We get connected. We work together for a couple years. I then start Bellator Claims August 7th of 2017.
Okay.
So we're about to be 7 years old in like a month.
Really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man. So it just was like, okay, this guy's got the freedom that I'm seeking, and how do I create that for myself? And he was in Texas, so I started my own gig here in Colorado, and then now we're licensed in 8 different states. But yeah, it was something that I saw because I had 2 kids under 2 at that time. And I was like, man, this is a lot of work, and I'm spending a lot of time doing real estate and other stuff.
Yeah, evenings and weekends.
Weekends that I can't spend with my family. I need to change that. And so in a very stupid fashion, I just jumped out of real estate into public adjusting, and I was like, okay, I can do this. Not really realizing like it's a totally different learning curve. And I would say when I was doing real estate, it's like a 2 or 3 year learning curve. In public adjusting, I would say like a 4 or 5 year learning curve.
Is it quite a bit?
It is. There are so many moving parts and so many things that you have to know from a strategic standpoint, also like a policy standpoint, contractual.
Yep.
There's just so much that goes into it. But yeah, there's a crazy learning curve.
I mean, so it's almost, is it not an attorney, but I mean, you have to be so versed in the legalities of that policy. It's similar to realtors or fill in the blank attorneys, right? For all of the real estate contracts. I mean, is that kind of a similar process and mindset?
Yeah, I would say I kind of call us attorney light,
right?
Being that we're kind of between like a roofing contractor or a restoration contractor and an attorney. We're kind of the fill in between those two, where we can basically enforce the policy, and we also know the construction, but we're not roofers and we're not attorneys, right? We're kind of in between, but definitely have to know both sides of that.
So if you're a homeowner or a building owner,
you
have a loss, right? So hail, fire, flood. I mean, we had a fire to a building. Think of all the things that we went through. What are the first things that you need to know that you probably don't? Because everybody thinks, okay, file a claim, call the agent, the adjuster comes out, and they'll just take care of everything. You just believe what they tell you.
Right.
But there's a couple other steps that are important, right?
Yeah, great question. And so I'll just kind of walk through my process, which will answer that question. So hopefully the people watching will understand. But ultimately, I want to know what the deductible is, right? So we were just called out to a property in Kansas, okay? And we asked the property manager by way of the ownership, like, hey, we need a copy of that policy. Let me take a look at that policy because we need to know what the deductible is. And the guy's like, oh, it's a $100,000 deductible. It's $100,000 for everything else. We know it's a $100,000 deductible. Okay, great. Come to find out, it's a 2% deductible on a $10 million property.
A little different.
Right. So we're like, now you don't have enough damage to even meet or exceed the deductible.
Yeah.
Why? Like, we could have completely avoided this. So know your policy. I know it's so boring, and nobody reads their policy like you had mentioned earlier. Yeah. Nobody does, because it's boring, and it's written in a way that you can't even read it unless you understand how it's written. Have you ever read it and you're just like, dude, this doesn't make sense? Because it's like on page 3, look at subsection 4, back on page 9. It shoots you all over these pages, and it's just like, why don't you put it in an order that people can read it? Because then people would read it, right? So know your policy is the first and foremost thing. Know your deductible. And then what I always recommend is hire a reputable contractor that can then tell you, hey, this is the amount of damage that we think you have. The loss is going to be approximately this amount. Okay, what is my deductible? What is the loss amount? Do these make sense to move forward with that? I would say that's probably the biggest first step that you could take to make sure you're on the right path.
Is the paint or roof on your home or business starting to look a little shabby? If so, reach out to one of our sponsors, M&D Painting and Roofing. M&D Painting and Roofing is a full-service residential and commercial painting and roofing contractor in Northern Colorado. And full disclosure, I'm the M in M&D. Check them out at mdepainting.com. Are you a small business trying to navigate all of the landscape of digital marketing and don't know where to go? Reach out to one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. They are the go-to source for all things digital marketing. They are the producers of this podcast, and they run all of the marketing for all of my companies. Check them out at imprint-digital.com.
Then as you go into the process, most people don't understand that what you say is going to be used against you, because when you are a paying client before a claim is made, you're an asset. Every single month, you're paying your premium, right? And money's coming in. You don't make a claim, you're an asset. The instant you make a claim, you're now a liability. But people don't really see that delineation. So they're just like, oh, my agent's a great guy. Probably is. He's a friend of mine. Probably is. The thing that you don't know is your agent's not the one making the claim determination. It is a completely different department.
Yeah, and it's not. And you get to be introduced to a whole nother side of that company.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not so fun.
They're not as friendly. They don't have the coffee machine at the office and the nice posters. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a totally different side. I call it sales versus servicing. Right. The sales side is your agent, person that you like, person you know, great person. Yeah. Then you get the servicing side of the claims department that then comes out and tries to figure out, like, how are we going to not pay this claim? Like, that's what I see.
So let me ask you, I was going to ask you your experience, opinion. Do you think insurance companies truly don't want to pay or want to underpay? Like, you want a company to be profitable, right? Our companies need to be.
Absolutely.
But you got to take care of your customer and do the right thing and do what you say, what you promise.
People before profits, right? Yes. But yes, everybody deserves to make a profit, including you, including me, including them, right? And if they didn't, they wouldn't be in business to be able to afford us. So like insurance plays a huge vital role in so many things. How many mortgage companies are going to give you a mortgage if you don't have insurance on that property?
None.
Zero, right? So it plays a vital role. Same thing with very expensive vehicles. Same role, right? And so they're absolutely necessary. And some people will say they're necessary evil. I don't believe that. Like, I truly believe that the basis of insurance is such a foundational principle that comes from the goodness of what it should be, right? Yeah. Which is indemnification. So when you ask that question, what I think about is, I think it was 96. It was the late 90s where Allstate got subpoenaed on this tile claim in Scottsdale, Phoenix, somewhere down there, right? And they're like, we're not going to share any of this information. And the judge is like, fine, it's $25,000 a day until you do. And then finally, it must have hurt bad enough where they disclose all these documents that they got from this presentation that McKinsey and Company did for them, right? And basically, McKinsey told Allstate, at Allstate's request, look, how do we become more profitable? Right?
And McKinsey Company was a consultant, right?
It's a consultant, yes.
To say, how do you make more money?
Exactly, right? So they go to Coca-Cola. They're like, if you make your cans just a little bit thinner, nobody's going to notice. But across these 10 billion cans, you're going to save $100 million. Yep. That's what they do. And so they're like the Bobs, right? And so they go in and they consult.
Yeah.
And so basically McKinsey told Allstate, these are the three things you do, and I've added a fourth, but they're the 3 Ds, which is delay claims, deny claims, force people to defend claims. And my fourth one is they diminish the claim, right? And so again, by the time the claim gets to me, it's not because everybody's like, oh, we're so happy and everything's going great. It's because it's not going great that it comes to me, right? And so the 4 Ds is what they do because they make money by doing that. And I would say the majority of claims within a certain percentage, I think actually get paid pretty fairly. I think over the last couple of years, we're starting to see a dynamic shift in the marketplace that is changing that opinion of mine. But previous to that, like last 2 years, I would say within probably a 10 to 12% variance, they're paid probably very fairly. But now I think that variance is increasing. Yep. And I think my opinion of them paying claims fairly has diminished because of what I'm seeing. Like, we're on some of these large carriers. My claims manager, Chris, will be on the phone with them on hold for 30, 40, 50 minutes. And then somebody will pick up like, insurance company, how can we help you? Click, and they hang up on him. So he's got to go through that whole system again, right? And it's the games that we play.
We've experienced that. Yeah,
exactly, right? And it's like becoming more prevalent. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm seeing a shift for sure.
Yeah, I just think it's whoever's listening to this, right? Everybody probably owns a home or they're going to be at some point, a lot of business owners. And it's like, really though? But again, like, I love my insurance agent. You're telling me that this side of the company's going to not pay and not, Yep, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Yeah, and it's true. And if you haven't experienced it, you will.
You absolutely will.
So knowing your policy, knowing that what public adjusting is, and what else would you say just for a property owner that they should be aware of, or just kind of have in the pocket for when that comes up?
Right. So depending on if you get a denial, so there's a realtor that we work with. His personal home got hit by hail. And the insurance company basically said, hey, we're not going to pay it because we found out some stuff and we don't think we owe for that. So he calls me and I go, let me see, forward me the email. And he forwards it to me. And they took one little snip of one little policy provision and said, this is the reason we're not paying you. And I go, okay. I go, hey, You're the insured. I don't think you need me. Send them an email and request in writing a certified copy of the policy. And the reason for that is because there's only two people that ever request that: public adjusters and attorneys.
Lawyers. Yep.
Right. And so he sent that literally the next day. They're like, hey, we're paying your claim in full.
Yeah.
He didn't even get a copy of the certified policy. He just requested it. And the reason they did that is because when you don't know everything and you take their word for it, that's what they're expecting you to do.
Yeah.
Until you call your friend who's a public adjuster and he tells you what to do, and then they actually pay the claim. So it just depends on how far you are in the process. But if you have a claim denial, ask for a certified copy of the policy. They're required to send that to you.
Yeah. So end of the day, you just get to keep these guys and gals honest.
Yeah,
With
that's
the
all I
people
do.
that you're serving.
That's all I do.
Super cool.
Right.
How's been just growing that business?
Man, that's been fun.
Because like mortgage, selling candy, mortgage, real estate. I don't know if you had a team in real estate, but some of that's kind of an individual journey to a certain degree, right? Maybe bring some people on the team, but you're building like you've got, some infrastructure and some other people and departments. And how's that been just as that kind of learning curve, growing that kind of business in an industry like this? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, from my real estate days, I knew that I needed to have some sort of admin person to help me because I'm not great at paperwork. I need someone to fill that gap. Yep. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Paperwork. What is that?
So I needed someone to fill that gap. And so I hired a claims coordinator that then I made my claims manager because now they actually manage the claim and they're licensed as a public adjuster. So it was tough. It was tough at the very beginning to like really try to figure this out because the interesting thing about public adjusting is it's been around for quite some time. I'm going to say like 60 years, if I remember correctly, from my recent public adjuster conference. But there's really like most people don't know like if you had like a national real estate firm, you'd say that company's name. People are like, oh yeah, I totally remember that, or I totally know that company. No such thing on the public adjuster side. And there's no real good public adjuster company to model your company after because there's so many people doing so many different things. Not necessarily wrong. It's just a different style of how people do it, right? Okay. And so it was really tough to model my company after anybody else. So I just took a little bit from here, a little bit from there, a little bit from there, and try to just build it out. And now we have 3 public adjusters on the team, marketing team. And like it is so fun now because I have put the right people in place where I can step into my business development role and high level claims negotiations, which is what I love doing. So we actually just were on a call yesterday with my team. We were looking at 3 public adjuster reports that we're creating. So that's something that we do that's different than most public adjusters. Okay. And can I dive into that for a second?
Totally.
Okay, cool. So there was a mall in Colorado Springs that we were working on, and we create these public adjuster reports on every single claim that we work, if it's residential or if it's commercial. A lot of PAs don't do that because it takes time. But what happened for me was we won a claim and just got extra multiple $1 million about 4 weeks ago on this because I did this public adjuster report that then they delayed the engineer coming out for about 7 months and looking at the property. And then the engineer agreed with like 95% of the stuff in my public adjuster report. I was like, oh,
there you go.
How come you guys didn't do this sooner? And so we were able to use that report, the engineer's findings from the insurance company, and put those two together and really question the insurance company. You delayed it. You diminished it. Why?
Yep.
And so like without that report, we would have not had probably even 10% of that leverage. So it's continuing down that path of like learning and becoming better by making a lot of mistakes, frankly, and then learning from those mistakes and becoming better from it.
But then creating resources that can put you in a differentiating position, right? Compared 100%. To other people that just came out, did their thing, didn't do that,
right,
and then didn't get the business.
They just made a couple phone calls. What we've found is by doing that and having the specific protocol, we call it the Bellator Blueprint. Mm-hmm. By using that specifically, we have gotten better results for our clients.
Do any other companies do that at all?
I know that there are other companies that do that, but if you took a swath of 100 companies, I'd say maybe 10 or 12 of them are doing that.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Where do you want to take the company? Like, where does it go from here? Because 7 years old.
Yeah.
Just got through the learning curve, building a team.
Right.
Figuring this out.
Yeah, man. So my daughter just turned 10, and I have 8 more years until she's out of high school. So
they go quick too.
Right.
Yeah, get ready.
Right. And so over those next 8 years, I want to build the company to a place that it is a leader in the marketplace. And it's funny, there's a lot of people that I looked up to in that space as I was growing my company that basically was like, we're not scared of you. You're not going to be anything in this industry. And I was like, oh, okay, I appreciate that. Thanks for that, by the way. Right. And now people are looking at me and like calling me and saying, hey man, we want to work with you. Like a total shift in that. Right. And so being able to use that good energy, our good name, the work product that we have to expand the company to help as many possible insureds that we can get on the right side of their claim.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
So what else is going on in the business then? So you're just purely focusing on this business. Are you still doing any of the real estate, or you've just kind of passed that
Not really.
off?
I still have my real estate license, which is actually really interesting because it helps me do the public adjusting stuff because I know how that's going to affect the owner and or a resale price. And a lot of insurance companies in their policies say, hey, we don't owe for any diminished value. Okay. But you do owe for indemnification, which then would reduce all that diminished value.
Yep.
Right. So in a roundabout way, but it's been really advantageous and really interesting to see how that license for my real estate and just the experience that I've had for 19 years plays a role in the public adjusting side.
I love that.
It's really cool.
What's been some of the struggles in growing the business?
Man,
so, you get a new business owner, right? They're just getting started, and they're getting through that learning curve, and they're trying to figure that out. Like, what have been some of those challenges? What kind of insight advice would you have for new business owner?
So the thing that you had asked me to write down, I'll get to later, but it's directly related to that, which is everything that's happening up here is what's going to be happening out there, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it was like the fear of like, oh my gosh, does this guy even want to work with me? Will they even talk to me? And so what I was just mentioning previously, as we've grown the company, those guys that I was worried about talking to reach out to me now.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, it's really getting in that warrior program that I was in. You and I've talked about that a little bit, right? We talk about the 4 core domains, your body. Like, does your body work for you? Is it weaponized to do what you want it to do? Right. Being, your connection with God and the spirit. Like, where is that at?
Yeah.
Balance, your connection with your spouse, your partner, your children. Where is that at? And then if you have those 3 quadrants, your business will fuel itself.
Yeah.
Because you're in power in those other 3 places that the 4th business quadrant is already powerful.
Yeah. And I see so many guys and gals, right? They just focus on the life. I just keep pouring into the business and working more on the business. And they totally forget about those other 3 things. And then it's usually like crash at some point.
Yeah. Guess who that used to be? This guy.
Yeah, and how did you learn that? Right?
Man,
it's like, it's easy to say now, right? But it's like it was through some adversity, I think, that you went through. When you were just all in on the business, right? And the real estate mostly, wasn't it?
All in, all in on the business, a little bit of body, didn't care about my connection with God. Relationship struggled, right? And I remember, like, I knew, like, in the back of your mind, you kind of know, like, something's got to change here. I don't know what it is, but it's got to be something, right? And I saw this video of the guy that created Warrior. His name is Garrett. And he said some stuff that definitely would not be appropriate to say on this podcast, but it really resonated with me because it was just like a slap in the face. I'm like, who is this guy?
We say a lot of things on the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are you sure?
Do it. Yeah. We have that one thing we're not going to talk about. Right. Yeah, that's okay. But yeah, you say it.
Okay.
And I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
But he gets on the stage and he says, stop fucking lying.
Yep.
I was like, who is this douchebag? And he said it again. He's like, stop fucking lying. And he goes, you're lying to yourself. You're lying to your family. And he just kept going down. I was like, okay, he's kind of nailing me a little bit here. Like, he's got my number. And so I started taking that into account and started watching his videos. And I was like, man, this guy's really onto something, right? And this is the life that I want to live. If I want to be free, I can't be the slave to my own lies. And so I had to really work on that and really figure out, like, where am I not free? I have some business freedom, and it wasn't great. It's a lot better now.
Yeah.
But I just really had to figure out, like, who is the version of Taylor that needs to show up to get me what I want and need in my life, right?
Yep.
Who do I want to be?
If you've got junk in your life or business that you need removed, reach out to one of our sponsors, Hulk Addicts. They are a full-service junk removal company, and they'll be able to take care of you at your home or your business to get rid of whatever you don't want. Check them out at hulkaddictsjunk.com. If you're a Christian small business owner, you have to check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. They are a Christian peer advisory community here in Northern Colorado and the Front Range that is designed to give you encouragement, support, and insight to grow your business with other like-minded Christian business owners. Not only are they a sponsor and a partner of this podcast, but I'm also a member of their community. Check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com. As a small business owner, one of the things we will always need to address is a space to run our business. If you're looking to do a small tenant finish, maybe even build a building from the ground up, you've got to reach out to one of our sponsors, Mendel Construction. They are a full-service commercial contractor that can take care of your business needs to build the space and place of your dreams to run your business. Check them out at mendelandcompany.com.
And it just started really becoming really evident that what I was doing was not working, and I had to change.
So you had to get called out, though.
I had to get called out, point. Right?
Yeah.
And Garrett lovingly calls it the dick kick, right? Like you have to get kicked.
Yeah, like trademark that, man.
Right, dude.
You heard that, Joey? The dick kick.
Absolutely.
You have? Oh, where I've been? I've been under a rock somewhere, man. I don't know.
I've heard that you got to get kicked in the dick.
Yeah, Joey knows.
Hold on, we're now explicit, Joey. Thank you.
Taylor. Yeah, no.
Well, you started it.
Yeah, we're good.
but you can just bleep that out.
That call out's huge. No, we let it run.
Let it
go.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Just tell the kids not to listen to it.
Right. You
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so important though. Right. You found that out the hard way. So you get kicked, you get called out. Like, what was that process like from there to just start like changing your mindset, changing your habits?
Right. It's like learning a new operating system for your life.
Yeah.
And it was not easy. And I've been in and out of it since 2016, so like going on 8 years. Mm-hmm. And it just has taught me so much. But one of the coolest things it's done for me is it's given me permission to do things that other people are like, oh, that's taboo, you shouldn't do that. Or I don't know if I would do that. Like that might be against what the religious elders would want you to do. Okay, that's great. That's for them, not for me. And it's given me permission to step outside of the boxes that I've been living in and stepping outside of the roles that other people expect of me to live.
So are those like self-created boxes or just expectations others have? Like give an example of that. Like when you say like step outside of the religious, like what's...
Yeah, well, I'll give you the example of like my mom expects me to be a certain way, right?
Yep.
Like this certain son. And if I step outside of that, it's like, oh, I'm a little disappointed in you. Like, okay, I understand that you're disappointed, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to have your opinion and your feelings, and that's great. But that's not how I feel. Right. But if you step outside of that role, then you really realize like, man, there's so much other cool stuff over here. But I've been living this like little trench of my own life that I have been just a prisoner to myself and everybody else's. Like they have these expectations that I'm living that are not mine.
They kind of dig the trench for you.
Right.
And get you nice and cozy in it.
Right. Yeah. And then when you try to step out, it's like a different world and it's painful. And you're like, whoa, I want to go back to the comfort. And that's what you have to fight.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. How much of business and business success do you think is the mindset versus just the consistent execution of what you got to do every day?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because Tony Robbins talks about the science of success and the art of fulfillment. And I think if you do the science of success, you will get the results. But are you fulfilled, right? So I think to be content and fulfilled, I think it's mostly mindset. Yeah. But I think if you were just a hustler and a hard charger and you did the right steps of the business every single day, you would actually be really successful, but you probably wouldn't be fulfilled.
Yeah, that's success versus significance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that, man.
And he talks about it. He goes, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
Yes.
Right? Because, dude, like how many rich, unhappy dudes are in the grave? You can't take it with you. Right?
Yeah.
So that was really mind shift for me too, because I have always been a hard charger. It's just my style and I like it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I'll continue to do that. And also when I had kids, I realized I'm like, wait a second, there's something different here that I should be paying attention to.
Yeah.
And my heart was really opened after I had children. Like it totally changed who I was.
Because your daughter's 10, right? And you said son is...
My son is 11. They're like 16 months apart. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a totally different perspective, man. They're 16 and 13 now, and it's
Dude,
crazy. Like Riley's
so crazy.
driving, and we're just like, we've got a couple more summers with him, and then he could be out of the house trying to figure that out. So
yeah, man, that's so insane.
Wow. Well, I love too that we were just talking offline too. You're getting ready to take a big trip in December and then taking the kids and just getting to spend that intentional time as a dad. How did you? So you grew up single mom, right? So where was dad in the picture for you?
So my dad died.
About that.
My dad died when I was 10.
Did he?
And so yeah, I've been fatherless for many, many, many years, and that has also affected my life in such a profound, and some people looking outside in would say tragic way. Yeah. But I would say the work that I've done over the last 3 years, it has really allowed me to see that it was all designed for me.
Yeah.
So,
So so somebody that's in a situation like that, like in a fatherless environment,
right?
Like some people just don't even realize it, right? And then like, how did you find those role models? What were some of those hurdles and those things that you had to just accomplish and jump into?
Yeah, man. If we want to get personal, let's do it. And so for me, I was angry a lot of my life, a lot of my life, unbeknownst to me where this anger was coming from. But that was a part of it. It was my father's death.
Yeah.
How he died, when he died, right before my formative years, right? And like not having a father going through those years. And it was really tough. And I just never realized how big of an effect it was and how big of an effect it had on me until I'm wise enough to realize that actually did impact me. And instead of hiding from it and running from it, addressing it, facing it head on, and allowing myself to heal from it. Right. And so that was probably the biggest challenge was being angry for sure. But that was also the fuel that drove me was that anger. Right. So that wasn't necessarily a bad thing in my mind, but until I had children, and then it shifted and I was like, whoa, what's happening to me?
Did you start seeing it in them that they were like, that the anger was rubbing off on them?
I'd say maybe a little, but I think they were young enough that it didn't really take quite a hold as it did on me.
Yeah.
Right. So, but definitely made an impact on my marriage 100%. Right. And so then we've been divorced for about 4 years. And I would say that played a huge role in that for sure.
So was that just going through that? Was that like another dick kick?
100%.
Like, oh man, I gotta figure something out.
Yeah, man. I'd often question God, like, hey, why me? Why this pain again? Mm-hmm. I have to do this. Like, why? This is bullshit, man. Like this is not for me. Like why would you make this happen to me? Why? I was very angry about it. And then more recently, actually about 6 months ago, I wrote in my journal, I go, God, I want to thank you for the pain that you caused in my life that forced me to change.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have never changed. I like this version of me.
Man. Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you. In the 20 years we've known each other, all the lunches and conversations we've had.
Yeah.
Man, so men, I think, deal with that a lot, just that anger, emotion for wherever that's come from. But that can also fuel, and I see this in a lot of entrepreneurs, right? You get that like A-type, D-type personality type, and it's the anger emotion that drives that. So how do you balance that can create so much good, so much productivity, but not let it burn the house down?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. So
because I deal with that too. You and I got real mad at each other once.
Yeah, we can talk about that too if you want. But the cool thing about that is we forgave one another and we healed from that and we moved on like people should, right? Yeah. But to answer your question previous to that was in that warrior program, I was in this King's Council is what it was called last year. And we'd have the opportunity to fly out every single month to Dana Point, Laguna Beach, California, Huntington Beach and whatever. Orange County, that's what I was trying to think of. And you could go sit in the room with Garrett and learn from him. And this guy that I knew when he and I started Warrior pretty much like within 2 months of each other in 2016. And he was on a podcast with Garrett where he was the guest on this Zoom and he was doing a hot seat with Garrett. And this guy was like, hey, I got a stand-up desk. I wake up at 4 a.m. I work out. I do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Like, why am I not successful? And Garrett was telling him something totally different than what I'm going to tell you. But he picked me up from the airport. And he goes, dude, how is it that you live in Colorado and you're sitting in this very expensive room to sit in? I live in Dana Point and I still can't get into that room. He goes, what am I doing wrong? I looked at him, I go, hey man, I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to expect and you're not going to like, because what you want me to tell you is you need to make more phone calls. You need to be better at marketing and you need to use this new marketing shiny object. You need to do all this stuff. I go, it's none of that. I go, it's healing. You have to heal all of the trauma that's holding you back. You have to heal yourself from all of these things that you keep subconsciously doing to yourself that you cannot even see. But when you heal, you can.
Yeah.
And my continual healing over these last 3 years, bro, it's been so painful. It's so intense and so beautiful.
Yeah.
And so when I told him
it's all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I told him that, he's just like, and I was like, dude, I told you you wouldn't like the answer.
You get
but
mad,
that is the answer. Yeah. Almost like,
I remember the first time somebody called me out and I was like, F you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, he was almost, I wouldn't say quite to that level, but like, yeah, pretty much that same vein.
Yeah. So a lot of the guests that have come on here, they've gone through, trauma, loss, just all kinds of stuff. So that first step is just like realizing that it is, and you go through it, and everybody goes through it, and you've got to face it and jump into it. And it gets uglier before it gets better. I think nobody they're like, I'll just keep it how it is because I don't want to go there to try to get to that better place.
Yeah.
So like, what kind of encouragement do you have for people that are in that spot? Because I know so many people in that spot.
Right.
And you could just go meet somebody, have a 10-second conversation with them, and you can just tell.
Yeah.
So like, what do you say to somebody like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Two things that I'll say to that is, one, now that I've been healing from mine, I can feel it in other people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Two, Garrett talks about all the time, and I reference Garrett a lot because he's been a large part of my life for these last 8 years. But he says there is no more light in the light. You have to go into your darkness.
Yeah.
To liberate that light.
Yeah.
And it is painful, but it's so beautiful on this side of things. I'm telling you, bro, like the stuff that I've done has taken me to places that I never wanted to go in my mind.
Yeah.
And it's so painful. I think it would break most people. But after I went there and did what I had to do, there's so much more light in my life, in my heart, in my mind, that no matter how painful it is, it's worth it.
Dang. I appreciate you sharing that, man.
Yeah.
We were all over the place today.
I love it.
Bouncing lots of different things.
It's amazing.
What else do you want to share with our listeners, man? We got a lot of business owners and men listening to this and just people trying to get better,
right.
Overcome adversity in their life and their business and make a difference in the world. So like, what do you feel like we haven't talked about yet that you want to talk
about? I mean, honestly, man, I feel like we've really crossed a lot of paths, but I guess one of the things going back to is what I was sacrificing when I was trying to hard charge was my body.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Like it was so funny because I met a warrior brother flying out to Orange County in the airport, and we had never met in person, but we just saw each other, and I was showing him a picture of my daughter on my phone, and I pushed swiped left or right, and it was a video of me like in 2017 or something like that. And dude, I was not in shape. And he literally goes, "Who the fuck is that?" And I was like, that was me. He goes, "That was you? Dude, you were so fat." And he's just like, dude, and part of the thing about the Warrior Brotherhood is we just speak facts. Like, even if it hurts your feelings, a good friend of mine told me, he goes, "Dude, I love you enough to tell you the truth."
Yeah. And you got to have people like that.
And you have to have people
even
like
if it's just one.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But that's what I liked about the Warrior Brotherhood is because that was everybody, right? Everybody was working up to like, not necessarily having to be brutally honest, but being truly honest. So
awesome.
Yeah.
We love that. Well, man, we're getting close to the end here.
Yeah.
So you wrote a statement down. Everybody wraps up the podcast. They've got that statement they want to leave with the world when they leave it. What did you put down? You turned it over, man. You hit it. I hit it from you.
I wrote, "Free yourself from yourself."
Love it, man. Taylor Grant, thanks for being here.
Yeah, brother.
That's a wrap. Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Would you make sure to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here? And please share this episode with somebody whose life it will make better. Are you a faith-based father and you want to have the adventure of a lifetime with your son? You have to check out the father-son hike of a lifetime on the Camino de Santiago in Spain. June of 2025, I'm going to be taking a small group of fathers and sons over to Spain. We are going to spend 6 days, hike 70 miles, have some of Spain's most amazing cuisines, see some of the most beautiful places and spaces, but most importantly, spend time together bonding with our sons. If you're interested in this adventure, check out mattshoup.com. When you get to the website, click the Gentle Art of Leadership button and hover down to the Father-Son Hike of a Lifetime.